But in a situation where you find that they look like the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that.
That's all the packages we have for you this morning, and right now we'll head on to what the national dailies are carrying this morning. And as usual, we'll start with the Daily Trust newspaper. Below the mast there, it says lawyers slam DSS as court dismisses fresh request to detain Emefiele. Bandits abduct 23 women, 10 construction workers in Zamfara State. Federal government asks Nigerians to consider bicycle for transportation. Interesting one there. The lead story there says ministerial list, why Tinubu delayed Kano, Lagos, and 9 other states. According to an opposition, technocrats among nominees, Gbajabiamila hints creation of new ministries. A precedent to send more nominees, and screening begins on Monday. You find this major story on page 4. You can see the nominees of in the new ministry ministers, of course, the nominees of the ministerial list. I beg your pardon on that one. Below the pictorial there, we have Niger coup, UN suspends humanitarian operations. Delta chief with 4 wives arrested over rape of JSS1 student. Really sad one there. Super Falcons turns World Cup, co-host Australia in 5-goal thriller. And 1,200 Nigerians die in Sahara Desert, Mediterranean Sea in 2023, according to IOM. And these are some of the stories on the Daily Trust newspaper this morning.
All right, let's take a look at Punch newspaper. El Rufai, Wike, other nominees face Senate screening Monday. This is the lead story. And we have writers that says president will create new ministries, form full cabinet in 2 weeks, says Gbajabiamila. National Assembly awaits other states' nominees. PDP faults Wike's nomination, lampoons Tinubu over list. We also have at the top of the page there, subsidy removal. Tinubu begs Nigerians to persevere more. NMA demands memorandum of understanding as federal government okays 25,000 naira doctor's allowance. We also have Margaret Benson Idahosa, matriarch of Nigerian Pentecostalism. Now, on the footnotes there, we have reduced government borrowing from CBN. World Bank tells Nigeria. On robberies, Lagos Commissioner of Police launches Operation Flush after Punch report. And we also have UN halts humanitarian operations. US, France condemn Niger coup. These are some of the stories on Punch.
And let's move to the Nation newspaper. From the top of the newspaper there, it says 1,200 Nigerian youths perished in Mediterranean, says NIS. Shelf strike plan, police caution labor security breach a concern. We have House of Representatives get 134 standing committees. Also demand to security, save Southeast from sit at home. Below the mast there, it says that court rejects DSS motion to further detain Emefiele. US pledges support to Bazoum after coup. Lead Soros presidency, why Tinubu picked Wike, El Rufai and others. Senate begins screening of 28 ministerial nominees on Monday. More nominees in coming days. And 11 states yet to have a slot. At the bottom of that newspaper says Senator Bolkachua sues DSS, ICPC over harassment, and NGA honors Jakande. These are some of the stories on the Nation newspaper this morning.
All right, let's take a look at Vanguard. We have at the top of the page there, CAC threatens to delist 100,000 inactive companies. We also have bandits kill officer, 5 soldiers, policemen, 20 vigilantes in Zamfara ambush. Court rejects DSS fresh request to detain Emefiele for another 14 days. And we also have Max airplane conveying Nigerian pilgrims trapped in Niger Republic. Wow. And below the page there, we have subsidy protest. Stop blackmailing us, NLC tells federal government. And We also have a Russian summit. Nigeria missing in African agrees nuclear energy. All right. We also have Women's World Cup. Super Falcons shock Australia in 5 goals thriller. These are some of the stories on Vanguard.
All right. We move on to the next newspaper there. All right, let's move on to the Tribune here. It's from the top there. It says CAC to the register over 100 companies for failure to file annual returns. Court strikes out DSS application to extend Emefele's detention. Editors institute annual memorial lecture in honor of Jakande. Below the master says Awolowo's legacy remain in safe hands. That's according to Awolowo Dosumo. Ministerial nominees, 4 ex-governors, 7 women make Tinubu's 28-man list. And there's a list of them, and the statement that 11 of states are yet to be nominated there. We have Kalu, Bichi, Betara, Faleke, Salam, Dogua, 128 others named Reps Committee Chairman. And Abbas allocates 80 committees to APC, 54 to opposition party. You find this on page 17 of the newspaper. And ISWAP kills 27 headers in Borno. Bandits kill 34, kidnapped 44 in Zamfara State. And these are some of the stories in the Nigerian Tribune this morning.
All right, let's take a look at this day newspaper. We have from the top there, court throws out DSS's application for extension of Emefele's incarceration by another 14 days. Nigeria demands release of Bazoum, return to status quo. Details on page 8. We also have more stories below the ministerial list. There is a send-off ceremony in honor of Chief Jamodu, and I think these are some of the stories that you can actually find on this day newspaper today.
All right, let's move on to the analysis, of course. And with us today to analyze the newspaper is Mukhtar Suleiman, a public commentator who will join us to discuss the front pages of the newspaper this morning. Good morning, Mukhtar.
Hi.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us this morning. All right, let's take a look at, what the federal government asks Nigerians to consider bicycle for transportation. That caught my attention. And the netizens are, diving on that one, where people are saying, okay, if we want, that's a good development, but then if you want us to do that, then we need you people, we need to see you people doing it as well. What's your take on that?
The funny part about the way the current administration started off very well. Going forward, but there's been a lot of insensitivity in the way they're handling the plight of Nigerians. We understand that jokes are necessary for us to laugh about some of our pain, just so that we could get by and all of that. But the insensitivity with some of the comments that are coming out from the government, as opposed to saying, oh, we understand, empathy, we understand what you're going through and this is what we're doing to alleviate it. Rather, you are either preferring insensitive alternatives, or you're making a joke on the floor of the Senate like Akpabio did twice already. It is really, really disheartening. And it's uncalled for, really. Because we know that Nigerians have a very unhuman amount of elasticity. Because we have this knack for embodying so much hurt and so much pain before we break. But when we break, it's usually not very funny. And we don't want to get to that point in this country, actually. So the president and its cabinet and the ministers as well should try as much as possible to find better ways of addressing these issues, and should show us that they actually understand, they actually see it, and they're actually doing something about it.
Now, you're talking about, this. One thing I don't see the government, actually pushing to do is trying to cushion the effect of subsidy removal. A lot has been said about, the mass transit system helping out. Nothing seems to be happening. Instead, fuel prices keep, increasing. The other day I was in front of the office and I saw someone with a skateboard going to the office. He would skate some distance and then walk the rest, because it's obvious that he couldn't afford, the cost of transportation because of how high it is. What is happening to the mass transit system? And also, you know, the intercity rail, what is happening? Nothing is actually being said about that.
I think if you remember, sometime last year when the whole ruckus about fuel subsidy removal actually came on, and we saw for a fact when the campaign started, and we saw for a fact that every single candidate was running on the mantra of fuel subsidy removal, there was something I said. I said, I'm not against fuel subsidy removal. I think it should be removed. It's actually a cabal system that needs to be dismantled. However, in order for us to remove it, there has to be certain things in place. One, an effective intra and intercity transport network. And two, there should be stable power supply. We should not have to pay premium price to commute, and we should not have to pay premium price to actually generate primary source of power. So that way, whenever we go pay premium price, we know it's for our own personal comfort, for your personal car, primarily anyway. But that has not been the case. However, I've always said that the triarchy of policy, politics, and governance has to always be served. And the unfortunate thing about that triarchy is that politics is always at the helm of affair, as opposed to policies, because politics is where human interest lies. And because of that, these other aspects of it, that's governance and policies, have to find a way to succumb to politics nuances. And that's the situation we found ourselves today. It's really, really unfortunate, really. It's sad, because you're looking at a government that we hoped might understand the plight of the country as much as it actually makes a lot of noise about it. But the actions coming out from it does not really translate to what we think is the intent.
And we're being asked to persevere some more.
The unfortunate truth is that we have to persevere. The unfortunate truth is that we have to persevere. It's always darkest before dawn. Things will get really, really difficult and uncomfortable. And I had already braced myself for it anyway. Yeah, because that's the truth. I already knew that if you really want to do something right, then we have to suffer a little. It's just the reality of things. But the question is, will it be worth it at the end? That's what we want to be sure that the suffering will be worth it at the end. Because now you've removed the fuel subsidy, you've left it to market forces, in quotes now. That's a very weird term now. You've left it to market forces. But government cannot entirely wash off its hands from business operations, because at the end of the day, business owners are always looking to maximize profit at all costs.
Of course.
So it is government's job to ensure that in their quest to maximize profit, the citizens are not harmed. So what is NMDPRA doing regarding stabilization of the prices? Because what I see going on now is that the marketers and the four people, whoever they are trying as much as possible to make the money that they've lost between January and now. Because former President Muhammadu Buhari said he was going to sign an MOU with them, he was going to pay subsidy between January and June, ending of June, which never happened. In fact, there was no budget line on the budget that says for subsidy payment. Instead, they were hoping and banking on the fact that NNPC was going to make that payment. And NNPC said no. It can't keep using its return of investment because NNPC has gone public. It can't keep using its return of investment to pay to service the subsidy payment. So that, for me, I think that's what the marketers are doing right now. They're trying to see how much money they can make in the shortest period of time before the market forces takes its control, before more competition come in and drive the prices down. So NMDPRA has to step in to ensure that whatever it is that they are trying to do, however it is they are trying to do, whatever it is that they are trying to do, it does not in any way hurt the Nigerian public. So government has to ensure that policies are rolled out to cushion that. But in the aspect of mass transit, we've actually, everybody who knows anything about policies knows that you cannot subsidize poverty. And that's what the government is trying to do. Giving us 8,000 naira to 12 million households is a way of just subsidizing the poverty. Don't do that, please. Ensure that there are policies that will actually last longer. Because you don't want... History and precedents have shown us that unconditional cash transfers does not work. We saw it with trader money. We saw it with, in a manner of speaking, we saw it with N power. It doesn't work. So you have to ensure that there are stable systems and structures in place that can last time, that can be sustainable. So what's the government going to do about that? That's still a bit... At the end of the day, whatever they do, don't give money, please. Just set up systems and structures that actually ensures that these things actually work. Because at the end of the day, sorry, just to also add, whatever, and I want to make this clear, I've always said it to my friends and people who listen, whatever it is that the policy the government has to roll out regarding fuel subsidy that would cushion the effect, for as far as you drive a car, you are not counted. For as far as you're going to be driving your car, you're not counted. because you still have to buy. So if the government subsidizes mass transit, unless you want to go and be taking mass transit, if you're going to drive a car, you have to go and buy fuel at the same amount.
Okay, so with the suffering that Nigerians are going through now, and it's affecting everything, food, and you spoke about prices, how prices should be controlled by the government, because food price is way high now. And with that, would you say, as an analyst, that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I beg your pardon, his decision, on his inaugural speech announcing the end of subsidy without any plans, because Nigerians are literally waiting for the plans while they go through these processes. So would you say that was the best decision, or should he have waited a bit until there was something done? We have a refinery on ground, maybe channel this the money that they plan on the palliative to the trying to revive the refinery instead.
Well, I think we need to understand one thing. First things first, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not remove fuel subsidy. I think that needs to be really, really clear. And I always like to put out this: I am not campaigning for the man. I'm not speaking for his interests. I don't speak for the presidency. But I think we need to actually understand what really happened. President Muhammadu Buhari has actually admitted that the reason why he did not make the announcement before the elections was because he wanted APC to win. That means it was his administration that did the removal without any plan. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I think, and that problem, a flaw of the man is the man got too excited. When he was speaking and giving his inaugural speech, he was still embodying the role of a candidate aspiring to be the president. He had not embodied the role of the president. I don't think he understood the gravity of what he would say at that point. He just said it excitedly because he knew that it was one of the things that he wanted to actually do when he came in. So, which is really, really unfortunate. Now, about the plans to be made or about waiting, if you understand the politics that goes around for subsidy, the players that have interest in the first subsidy money, how fuel is smuggled and everything, in all genuinity, and I say this pragmatically, and not because I don't have empathy, we'll come back to the empathy part. The best way to remove fuel subsidy was what he did. Because if you had wanted to wait,
cold turkey like that,
yes. If you had wanted to wait, because if you know the politics and the vested interest involved in that whole moment, because you cannot underrate the influence of vested interest in governance. I mean, the ministerialists will show you. So, because vested interest is very important, one of the ways to do some things in president is just to yank it off first. Because if you don't yank it off if he didn't yank it off the way he did, trust me, it would have been very difficult. Would have gone back to square one, because this guy was new. People were scared of him because of the kind of person he is, and everybody is trying to understand his footing, where is he going, and everything. Since nobody understood him, that was the best time to do it. So at that point, there was no form of political repercussion per se, that could actually come up, because at the end of the day, he has to score political points for himself. So I think, in a way, if I'm speaking from the politics angle, that was the best way to actually do it, because you have to look at how do you remove it in such a way that the vested interest cannot come back and do anything. Really, they have to find a way to just live with it. That was what he did. But from the side of the people, the masses who campaigned, who voted for you, what I would have assumed was, as soon as he has done that yanking off, the next thing is just I don't use the word palliatives. I don't like the term palliatives anymore, because if you even look at what it means it doesn't mean anything reasonable. So what are the things you have to put in place to cushion the effect and ensure that there's a sustainable impact across board? That was what I was expecting him to have done, but that was not the case. So, which is where I think he has actually fallen short. Now that the ministers are going to come on board, screening starting on Monday and all of that, we're looking forward to that. Perhaps the new Minister of Labour, whoever that might be, Minister of Transportation, Minister of Finance, the CBN Governor, all of them like that, that economic team can come together and decide that, okay, these are the best line of approach and what they need to do and all of that to ensure that the country keeps moving forward.
All right, Mukhtar, now I would like you to share your thoughts on the Niger coup.
Okay.
We were all following it up. We all know what happened prior to, the coup and the military taking over. Just share your thoughts on it.
I have some unpopular opinion about it, of which, of course, I'm not going to discuss here. but it's unfortunate that the country's that are next to us are actually facing these issues. They are undemocratic, and more needs to be done about this whole incident. Instead of us dealing with effects, a coup is an effect of something. We should go back to what the cause of the coup is and find a way to address that cause. Perhaps if we do address the cause, because if you notice, there is no much pushback from the citizens of Nigeria. So it feels as if they are comfortable with it, which is something I'm still trying to grapple around. There are some theories flying here and there.
It could be fear. They expected
not entirely. Now, I have a few of my friends in Nigeria, one of whom is trying to find his way back into Nigeria now. And some of the things he said I don't want to say I understand why there's a coup. There should not be a coup. There should not be a reason for a coup, especially in the 21st century that we are in. Democracy has evolved so rapidly over time. Okay. But then again, it still goes back to me saying that the African Union, the ECOWAS, we need to sit down and assess the kind of democracy we need to adopt in Africa that works for the citizens, that works for the elite, and ensures that there is this consensus. Because human behavior vary from region to region. So we cannot expect to practice the same kind of democracy that the United States practice or that the British practice. In fact, if you look at the context of what democracy means, Nigeria, for example, practices more democracy than even the United States and the UK. Because if you assess their democratic processes, yes, perhaps we have some challenges in our systems of democracy. But in the application of it, what the Constitution says and all of that, we have more closer to that. We have more we're inclined more toward what is defined as. But it's unfortunate what's happening in Niger. We're hoping that beyond the narrative of condemning, the ECOWAS and the African Union can actually come together and do something about it to ensure that there's a restoration of freedom of expression and other things that the democracy embodies in that particular country.
Okay, all right, let's pick this last story there. It says Super Falcons stuns the World Cup, co-host Australia in a 5-goal thriller. Now, the story after their win is what is coming out, about the NFF taking their allowances off, and then there's been even the Australian ladies, there's a football players also in the other end, have been, yanked off from their normal allowances. And there's still that debate of the men are paid more than the women, considering the women played well. We all watched that ball. And Ian Wright, called out the NFF to pay their women their allowances because they earned it. What's your take on that?
Two things. I'm going to take your statement from two. And I don't want to sound sexist, genuinely, but I'm going to actually just be patient with me for me to get to the point. Two things. First things first, it's unfortunate that since France 98, as long as I can remember watching football, NFF, CAF, and all of that, they've always had that problem of the entitlement of the management to the allowance of the players, despite the fact that these people are being paid separately. I think it's unfair. It's uncalled for. If you know that you have an entitlement, make it a legal contract that says certain percentages come, because that's what football in Europe does. Certain percentages comes to do the division in a legal way. But to halt people's money, we do it with pension. We do it with federal government salaries. We still do it with football. It's unfortunate that it's across board. It's really, really disgusting, and that behavior really, really needs to change in Nigeria. It's very sad that it's a culture, and that culture is one of those cultures we need to break off from. Now, regarding the part about the men being paid more than the women, it's not right. I agree that women should not be paid less for anything. Yes, there's a lot coming. But football or sports in general, let's talk about sports business in general, how people are paid is not about the amount. They're paid in percentages. They're not paid in amounts. They are paid in percentages. As we sit here right now, I can tell you, genuinely, I did not know the match was even happening until it started. That's when I knew it was happening. So when I saw that, it's happening, oh my God, people started watching. How people watch football, how many people pay tickets to go watch the football, determines how much those players will receive from the percentages of the returns of that particular match. The money is not going to fall from the sky. It has to come from within that system because it's a business. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So if you look at the way sports works, for the women to earn more people need to go and pay more money to watch the game. There's this lady, this MMA fighter, I've forgotten her name. I was trying to remember her name in the course of this conversation. She's the highest paid fighter in MMA. Oh, sorry, in UFC. Is it UFC or MMA? One of the two fighting rings. Anyway. But when she was asked why she's being paid more than even men, she said because more people paid tickets to come watch her fight. The same thing goes for so many other sports. The same thing goes for Serena Williams. The reason why Serena Williams earns as much as she does is because more people pay tickets to come watch her show. Her game.
Yeah.
So because the more people pay tickets to come watch the game, because the payment is not 5,000 naira, 10,000 naira, it's 10%, 15%. So because it's in percentages, so when we make this argument about men earning more in sports, we need to look at what are the nuances around it. Really, I'm not genuinely, like I said, if it's in the corporate space where I work, for example, if we're both managers, you have to pay the both of us the same, because we are both doing equal level of work and we are both on the same level. So the lady should not earn less than I do, because we're both managers. But if we're in marketing, and marketing dictates that it's how much you bring into the system you're going to get paid. It's whoever brings the most business that is going to get paid more, even if we're both on the same level. And that's the same thing that actually happens in sports, in the sporting business. Really, it's really unfortunate, but I would always say to people, I always advise them, if you really want women to get paid more, please pay more. More people should pay more tickets to actually go watch this thing. And on the side of the sporting managers as well, perhaps I would advise, and it's still that thing about giving the public what they want. Perhaps I would advise more money is being spent on the marketing of women's sports.
I wanted to hit on that, the marketing.
Yeah, more money should be spent on the marketing of women's sports. But I know something similar happened last year. There's even an ad. There was even an ad. I don't know which company actually put the ad where they used computer-generated images to replace the female players with male players. It was the same game, the same gameplay. So they replaced. Yeah, it was a marketing ad for female sports anyway. They used computer-generated images to replace the female players with male players. The play was so interesting to watch. And then at the end of the ad, they switched it. These are the original people that were playing that sport.
So that's
to show that
undermining the
women can actually play interesting sports. I know under the comments, I've forgotten the company, under the comments of that ad, people like, that means I'm going to go and start watching football, female football. But if those kind of ad keeps coming up, I think it sort of promotes the female sport. And then another thing that's actually altering it is culture. Again, in the sense of the idea that women are supposed to be subjugated, not to show. So all of that is also a nuance that we actually need to work around as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Mukhtar Suleiman, for joining us today to analyze the paper.
Thank you very much for having me.
Of course.
Always.
All right, that's Mukhtar Suleiman, I beg your pardon, a public commentator who joins us, of course, to review the papers today. And with that, we wrap up Daybreak on Trust TV. I am Sumaya Abubakar. Have a lovely weekend.
And I'm Darshan Husseina Usman. Enjoy the rest of your day.